Fortunately for us, this panel that presented at the DMA Nonprofit Organizations Washington conference back in February agreed to come and bring it like a road show up here to New York. So we have from Catena Connects, Bonnie Catena. From LW Robbins, Bryan Terpstra. And from Consumer Reports, Tricia Reyes. How do we want to go about this?
The same way we did it before.
I don't remember that. That was in February.
Let's just take it.
Everyone takes
Oh,
a tip.
so I have
Yes.
this. All right, we're ready.
Yeah.
I was fortunate enough to present with these guys back in February, and the way we structured it was more like a conversation. So they're not just up here rattling off bullets off their PowerPoint, but rather we'll take questions as we go instead of saving the Q&A for the end. It just makes it a little more interesting, and that just seems to work a little bit better for us. All right, so I don't even know.
So raise your hand, interrupt.
Yeah, so just interrupt and let's start the conversation. Okay. Bonnie, I think this is yours.
Yes, it is. All right, this one is a classic offline that has online that you can do online as well. It's the famous copy mailing. So actually, Harry Lynch is over there, and he told us the mythological story of a small nonprofit they worked for, and they needed to get another appeal out, and they literally made photocopies of the appeal they sent the last time and stuck a copy stamp on it. And lo and behold, and mailing it to a select group of donors, just picking your best multi-donors so that you get the most bang for your buck. And the gross per thousand, you might not do as much gross income with that second drop because you're mailing a smaller selection of your donor file, but your gross per thousand is going to be a lot higher, and it's just a way to get some more revenue in the door. And you can do it online too if you're not doing it already, and you can just do what's called a resend, and you just resend the same message you did previously with a little quote-unquote above the fold online version of what the copy stamp is, with just a reminder. This is particularly valuable on December 31st. I know a lot of groups have success doing a message in the morning and then a resend later in the day with a reminder that you've got until midnight.
Cool. I believe Harry calls this the 1-2 punch.
Yeah.
It's a great way, so much of what we do is being in the mailbox at the right time, and this gives you 2 shots instead of 1. So it's a nice way to sort of recycle an effort.
Another cool thing to do with the copy mailing, and when you're mailing an acquisition and you're doing your 2-time multis as a follow-up, you can test putting the stamp on that envelope too.
DIY DRTV.
That's me.
That's you.
When I say DRTV, I'm not talking about those wonderful ads by SPCA and all the other organizations that can afford direct commercials on TV, which is also a part of DirecTV anyway, but it's also about doing it from an organic perspective, from a raw perspective on YouTube. YouTube is one of those channels that a lot of people are aware of, yes, a lot of people are actually looking at YouTube, millions, if you will, every day, every second. And this is a great way for nonprofits to communicate, whether it's a 30-second, 15-second spot, whether it's background about your staff, whether it's a cause that you have, whether it's a cultivation that you're doing during Thanksgiving or in the holiday season. And these videos go viral, and they are viewed by so many different people from all over the world, and it's a great and cheap way for your organization to be out there and to get your communication sent virally. Also, videos, and most of you probably already know this, have a higher ranking than any other type of posting, whether it's press, whether it's content. So it's being viewed, and it's a great cultivation piece as well. So if you haven't tried it already, I definitely stress that you should. We just did a video PSA for Consumer Reports on food safety initiative that we're doing. We're calling attention to food safety, and we decided to just cut a 30-second PSA. It wasn't professionally shot. I mean, we do have a studio because it's Consumer Reports, but it was done in-house, 30 seconds, just to tell people about the different things that we're doing in food safety. We slapped a 1-800 number up there that we already have and a website, and it's going to go on our homepage. It's going to go on several of our other extension websites. And when we do establish a nonprofit channel, because we do have a YouTube channel now, it'll go on there as well. So it works well.
And it's cheap.
It's cheap.
Okay.
Next one is Mind Your Lapsed Donors. I'm always surprised. I ask a lot of organizations I work with, well, in your acquisition program, how many people in your deep lapse audience are you mailing? Because most people do it in their acquisition program, because once you can't break even, you want to reactivate some lapse. And it's always fascinating to me that they mail their lapsed donors, but they don't really think about it too often. And one key thing that I've found over the years is frequency really does matter. So if you have deeply lapsed, and this is 25 plus in recency, and someone's given you 2 or 3 plus gifts, even in the distant past, they reactivate a lot better than other lapsed donors. So simple things like that. We've even explored if someone's given you to 3 or 4 years in a row, like 5 years ago, they may reactivate a lot more than a traditional lapsed donor. So don't forget to look at those things, especially when you're paying for outside lists. If you can get a free name, in quotes, then use your lapsed. The other thing is, we all know the super dupes, so if you put most of your lapsed, even if you're deep lapsed in your merge purge and they happen to hit another charity file, the mail them as your lapse name, don't pay for that name, and they usually do much better. You're actually almost modeling without paying for the modelers. And the other thing I want to mention, modelers are now doing lapse model, even if you only have 20 or 30,000 lapse names, because if you bring something unique, usually they're co-ops, if you bring something unique to their knowledge and profiling your donors, then they'll actually do it. So I've seen a lot of movement lately in getting modelers to do pretty inexpensively some lapse modeling so that you can really get a payoff in your acquisition program.
We always talk about thanking our donors, but a lot of times with a lot of nonprofits, it's an afterthought. It's something that, oh yeah, let's focus on the campaign, let's focus on the email aspect, and yes, at the end, yeah, we have to thank our donor. We'll just slap an acknowledgement together and we'll just regurgitate it to death. And there's more to it than that. I think thanking your donor is just beyond the acknowledgement process. It's also involving your staff, whether your development group is small or large, getting everyone involved to even do a thankathon. I know it's very 70s, but it works. We just did it not too long at Consumer Reports. It's probably the first time they actually got a bunch of staff members together. There was 50 of us that volunteered to take a list apart of people that had been on the file for 20 years that had given consecutively, and just thank people, send postcards. It's not that hard, and it really does reap results. We've actually seen some of these people come back and give higher gifts. We are also connecting with the major gifts group and doing more cultivation across the board from the beginning. When someone comes in on that file, you should be acknowledging them in more than just a thank you. They should be part of whatever events you have, whatever things that you're trying to do to build relationships with your donors. And one of the things that we can do, and anyone can do, is thank people on your social media pages, thank people when you're twittering, and you can show your progress on any channel, measure results from the cumulative gift that you give after you do these things. And the last thing is, I'm a big fan of I can't even pronounce her name today, Penelope Burke. She is one of the favorites that I have. I have her book. I've had it for probably about 5 or 6 years, and she talks about the art of the thank you. It's really knowing how to communicate with your donors beyond just saying thank you. So if anything that you get out of my tip is really using the resources you have to recognize your donors.
The other thing I would mention with the thankathons, we did a similar thing at AMFAR, and where basically the 6 women who work in the development department got on the phone with donors, and we started with our longtime donors, people who've been giving to us for 25, 30 years, and obviously they're our best people, and so it's a safe call, and you're not asking for money, so it's very easy to get people to make these calls. But from a staff standpoint, you reach these people, and we do AIDS research, and I talk to more parents who make comments like, I lost 2 sons to this. I made a piece of the AIDS quilt for my son. Or I had a woman who said, I have to give, you've kept my son alive for 25 years. And just from an employee standpoint, it made me say, wow, this is more than just blue lines and berries. This, what I do in my job and what the other women in my development department do in our jobs is we're changing lives. And it kind of just gave us all a shot in the arm, when at times, this can be a very frustrating and a very challenging job that we all do. So from that standpoint, I would encourage you, and play it safe, call your best donors. Start with them. But I would definitely encourage you to do that.
And I have a couple things to add too, really quickly. With gifts you get online, make sure that you send a follow-up thank you via email. The autoresponder people really just consider a receipt. So use that extra touch to send a really warm and fuzzy thank you online. One of the things we did at Amnesty that was really cool is we had our executive director at the time shoot a 30-second video literally thanking the donor, and the video showed up in the email. And so that's and that works really well if you have a pretty charismatic leader who's really known to the cause. And then in terms of the letters that you're sending out through the mail, make sure that you update them at least quarterly to keep the content fresh. You know, give the thank yous another way to tell the donor how their gift is helping. So, you know, mention a research update, mention if you're a food program, if you started serving another neighborhood, if you've been mentioned in the media, stick in a copy of the press clipping. There's lots to do.
It's an easy way to get a lot of bang for your buck. Question?
No, but I'd just like to add one more that
Please.
we talked about, but a robocall actually has worked very well where your CEO thanks a donor, and you find a certain level of donors, not your lower level, but not your high-end donors, where your CEO makes a robocall and just thanks them, and it's worked well.
What's
And it's
robocall?
very-
Automatic.
Automatic.
They record.
Okay.
Cheap.
It's very
Oh,
cheap.
from
We
your
do
CEO,
from-
and you
yeah,
have them pre-recorded.
Exactly.
Oh, okay,
Exactly.
It's
interesting.
very inexpensive.
And again, it's just that other opportunity to touch your donors.
Yep.
And I find
And not ask them for money.
and not asking
Yeah,
them
don't
for
ask.
money, and that's key. And they really seem to appreciate that you're not just always hitting them up for another check. So.
And just one, and then we'll stop talking, thank you. But we like to thank donors apparently. One thing I do across a couple of organizations I work with, and we definitely touched on it, is we send a nice holiday card with no ask. There is an envelope in it though, but a very nice holiday card, just thanking them at the holidays. And these are people, we look for people who've given 4 or 5 years in a row. So they're consecutive, and it's a really one-off, it's a targeted mailing. And we really do feel it has a really nice impact, because I think people are always relieved when you send something to them and it's not asking for a gift, and it's actually a really nice time to say, hey, thank you, we had a wonderful year, you were part of that. Obviously, you'll send them a solicitation maybe 3 weeks later, but it's really worked out really well for us. We've actually been able to track it and say, is this retention touch worth it? And it's resoundingly yes. The answer is yes, especially for consecutive givers.
Okay, this is a way to keep your pricing down. This is good also if you're a relatively small shop and you don't have huge quantities to mail. Go out to your printers and your other vendor partners and tell them that you're planning on sending 4 10,000 piece mailings a year, and they will negotiate pricing for you that is better than if you go to them and get bids for the mailing separately. Because the vendor's happy to cut you a deal because they have some reliable jobs coming in, and then it saves you in the long run. Okay, and then the second point about acquisition components, whenever you can, print a year's worth of materials, print a year's worth of your reply slip, print a year's worth of your control letter, your BRE. Your BRE you could probably use across all your mailings. So just think creatively about ways you can save money, and you can really get a lot of bang for your buck. And then finally, you can do the same thing with lists. If you're a small mailer and your geographic service area isn't hitting that 5,000 minimum that is often required to order a list, go to your broker and see if you can negotiate using the names twice to get up to that quantity.
And I want to add to that too. I'm always fascinated. So a lot of nonprofits have all these great departments, and you would love that they would work together, like major gifts and PR and the online folks and the
Plan
fundraising
giving.
and the plan giving. Well, guess what? They barely talk to each other. So when you get them all in a room and you say, hey, is everyone using the newsletter? Oh, really? Well, why don't we order all our newsletters together? What other things do you need this year? Do you need brochures? Get the departments to agree to certain print runs, and then all of a sudden you have some cohesiveness and coordination of the orders. And I've been fascinated how much money you can save just to get them in a room and talk together for. Now they won't agree on everything, but there'll be some pieces that they'll want to share in common, and then you just kind of get it done.
Yeah, like your donor newsletter might have an article about plan giving, and maybe you can get your plan giving department to chip in the cost of that mailing.
Right.
Yes.
I have a question about BRE. I've heard that in this day and age, people don't have stamps as much around, and therefore a BRE is better than just a return envelope with no stamp, or with no business return envelope And Deshauna, what's your thought on that?
No. I've seen the, the courtesy reply envelope versus business reply envelope test over and over again over these years, and the results really vary by organization. So, I'm being the consultant with that really annoying answer. It depends.
Got a test.
It's
But,
true.
in this case, hand to whomever you believe in. You have to test because it's different. Like we found that higher dollar donors like courtesy reply envelopes instead of BRE envelopes. It's better to use the BRE in acquisition versus house because you want to make it as easy as possible to get that first gift. So really just test it out.
There are a lot of nonprofits that probably are not aware, or maybe they are, that there is a lot of Google grants still available. It's not archaic as it used to be. I think when they came out with it many years ago, when the internet and social media and everything else started coming about, that there were these Google grants available. And it's a great way to test your search engine marketing before making a large investment in your program. I think a lot of nonprofits are just wrestling, smaller nonprofits especially, where do I put my money? Where can I invest my money? Should I be focusing more on social media, Facebook, Twitter, whatever have you? And this is a great way to get the support. There are a lot of grants still available, even beyond just Google grants, that you can get access to monies to help you make that decision. So it's very important.
This is a simple one, and a lot of people in this room might know this one, but audit your suppression routines. So it's really important every year. I actually look at it almost every quarter. What suppression lists are you using in your renewal program, and what suppression lists are you using in your acquisition program, and why? If you don't constantly look at those lists, they'll just keep growing and growing. If you don't know the history of why you're suppressing, you should ask the people who've been around. But you really should establish some business rules, because what I've seen is a lot of organizations, they allow these lists to get massive, and they don't even know why they have all these suppressions. So really audit that, because what happens is you could be deduping names that, or audiences that do really want to give to you, and maybe they haven't given to you in years because you haven't even asked them in years. So really check that, because your ROI could improve. The other thing too, if someone says only solicit me once a year or twice a year, or some people say don't solicit me at all, and then you haven't heard from them in 2 or 3 years, most organizations I work with say, fear game, we're going back to them. And you wouldn't believe the response rates. Most people fear that. They say, oh, people are going to complain, I'm going to get all these calls. Well, guess what? The response rate is, double or triple what you expected. You respected their wishes, but there's only so many years that you will respect their wishes, because you know what? Unless it's never mail me again, which I understand.
Yeah, but you know what? Even those, try. I've seen it.
Try.
Because a lot of times someone tells you not to mail them after they've had a really shitty day.
They've had a bad month.
And they're taking it out on you when they get that piece of mail, and that piece of mail plucked their last nerve. So wait about 18 to 24 months and mail the do not mail people. The results have been shocking. I've seen them in more than one organization.
Yeah.
And do not phone too, believe it or not. People who say never call me again, try them out in 18 to 24 months.
But be prepared to get some of those calls.
Some slack, but take it into
But
consideration.
tell the folks at the
Yeah.
nonprofit that you are going to expect some of those calls, have a script ready, and she's right. See what happens. We've done it with several organizations.
No, I did it at Amnesty International, and we have crotchety donors. Let me tell you, didn't get one call. Yes, you have a question about?
Just an email. We're using Salesforce. We have vertical response. We send out e-blasts. People email opt out. And what I've been told is that we can't un-opt out. That there's a process that they've got to go through to re-opt in.
Yeah.
Is there a, what do you
And
think?
for email, we do follow those rules, because email's such a different beast, and you really have to.
Well, but in our case, we've started emailing more frequently.
But if you're saying you go back to people who have unsubscribed with a reasonable request would you perhaps want to come back to us or get information from us again? I've seen that happen, and people have done that. I think as long as you own it, and you're right up front, you're saying, we realize
That you didn't
didn't want to hear from us, however, and then
There's
you go
something
into,
important.
there's something important, and would you like to resubscribe today?
And
I think if
opt in.
you own it and opt in, it will work. But in that case, they really do have to opt in.
They have to actively do something. I mean,
Yes.
Right, yeah.
So it's not going to be high, but at least you tried to do something. But they really do have to click something. You can't
Yeah.
just pre-click it.
Do Do you have something to add, Paul?
Yeah.
If someone's opting out and you want to, at the point of opting out is a great time to try to see if you can stop them from opting out. So hopefully on the webpage when they're going there to opt out, I'd recommend offering them less emails as an option.
Right.
That you'll say, I'll give you 4 emails per year or something like that. Because once they opt out, technically you really can't email them again, or you're going to be spam. You're going to be labeled as spam.
Yeah, we were just very worried because we have a very popular benefit gala event that many people want to hear about, but they're opting out because they don't want to hear about advocacy and whatever, so.
Yes.
Segmentation, then
Thank you
making
very
sure
much.
that you don't hit those people that many times.
And I've seen an organization did a great job. They call it the Email Preference Center.
Right.
Yes.
And it's
Right.
all, you have 50 things you can choose, but it will
Right.
get down to, I only want to hear about the gala this year. So it's beautifully done because before they say, I don't want to hear anything else, it's this preference center and it's all about you and you get to pick what you want to hear. And it's made a big difference.
Double tall, extra foamy, non-fat latte.
Hold on a second. Say that again.
I was just asking what he called that. You said
The email preference
It's email
center.
preference.
Or call it a supporter preference center.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
make it more donor-centric.
And it's not just about email too. I've asked organizations, I love that. That's great for email. Can we ask about direct mail too? Can we make it a general preference center? How do you want to communicate to me? Without too many bells and whistles, because you do want to be able to mail and you do want to be able to email, so watch how you word it. But it does appear very donor-centric to kind of get some of that out there before they just say, never talk to me again.
Thank you very much.
Just want to throw one thing. We've had a lot of success with the snooze button with them.
Yeah, yeah.
So it just stops it for like
you
6
elaborate?
months. Yeah, so it basically stops emails for 6 months. So not a preference center. So again, when you work in that last nerve,
Yeah.
and they want to unsubscribe, you got one. We're like, how about we just leave you alone for 6 months?
I've never
They're like,
heard of
fine,
that.
good, shut up. And then
Let's take some time apart.
Great.
Yeah.
Yes, let's take a break.
Let's break up, but we'll get back together.
We're taking
Yeah.
a break, right, okay.
Wait, there's some-
Fantastic. This is what I love about this presentation, I'll get to in 1 second, is that for dinosaur donors like, dinosaur fundraisers like myself, old dogs can learn new tricks, and that's so much of what
Old
Tricia
dogs.
talks about. I'm always like, wait, say that thing again.
I like-
That thing
what'd you say,
talked
Tricia?
about, it was on Google, what was it?
What was that?
Razoo something. So anyway, there's something for everyone. Yes.
No, I just wanted to share, I work at the Metropolitan Opera, and we suppress, if you ever said ever that you don't want to hear from us, we will never reach out to you. But we have recently revisited this.
Bad idea.
And
No, revisiting is good.
we decided to mark certain people who have been marked for more than 3 years with no telemarketing or no mailing. Take a look at them, and anyone who has engaged with us otherwise, like they've come to the website, they've bought something, they're ticket buyers, they bought something in the shop. Any of those people who have said that at some point over 3 years ago, but have also been engaging with us, we're marking it a different way so that we're going to very gingerly reach out to them. And that's going to start happening this month, actually. We're really excited. And it has released 50,000 name sheets.
See, it's big.
Yeah.
Engaging with us that we have not touched because we're terrified.
Right. And that's a good step forward. That's like a good compromise if you've got some apprehensive staff members.
Right.
That's like a phase 1. So you
Yeah.
get them warm to it and see that it starts
Right.
working, and then you go into phase 2 and phase 3.
Cultivate.
I think we should move forward.
We should move forward.
Yes, we should.
We're cutting in.
Okay.
Cultivation on a dime. Fine.
I'll just quickly go through it. I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory, but there are a lot of opportunities to do cultivation from probably a sharing, caring sort of situation. Like Bryan said, a lot of departments aren't used to working together. This is a perfect opportunity, especially if you're in the mid-level programs and you're trying to build a bridge with the major donor programs. It's not your donors and their donors, and we own a donor and you don't own a donor. It's working together. They're the same people. Okay? So it's building that bridge and working on a cultivation and mission-based plan that reaches out to these people from the beginning all the way through to mid-level, whether they're sustainers or not, and to major gifts, and doing things that are cost-effective and doesn't require a lot of investment. So if they're having an event, add on some specific donors that you think that have shown cumulative giving opportunity and invite them to that event. If they have a newsletter, work on a newsletter together. It's just opportunities to cultivate donors at different levels all throughout the year consistently, not throwing them cultivation and attention when they get to a major donor level. So it really is working together as a team. And I'm telling you, more and more nonprofits need to be going in that direction if they haven't already. This is the trend now. The major donors, the person that gets to a major donor level over 5 or 6, 7 years, they really need to be groomed from the beginning to end, especially baby boomer donors and younger. These people expect to be shareholders. They're investors now. They expect to be a part of the organization, whether they give you a $100 check or $1,000. So it's very important.
No, you can go ahead.
One thing I'll just add there, Bonnie, is I have asked a lot of the organizations I work with, can we just do a webinar or do a conference call once a year and really call out to your special donors, consecutive givers, high dollar givers, your sustainers, and just talk about what happened this year, how thankful you are, what things you accomplished. And they get all panicked, oh, the people are gonna ask me bad questions, it's gonna be such a really bad experience. I'm like, no, it's not, trust me. So they have a conference call that costs barely nothing. Maybe if you're lucky, 40 or 50 donors tap in, it depends on the size of your file, and they have a really great experience. And the person talks, and no one asks. They're there because they're interested in you, and then you've allowed another forum for them to listen to you. And it's worked very well. So think of the cheap, but yet the donor-centric stuff you can do.
And even if a person doesn't attend your conference call, the fact that you've asked them has value, because again, it's another touch. Think about, everybody's got stuff lying around in closets, old swag, bookmarks, CDs, decals, pens, and think about ways to use those when you're sending communications to your donors. I mean, thank you letters are a great and most obvious way to do this, and it's a good way to vary your thank you letters so that people get something new each year. Just throw that stuff in there. And then one of my other favorite things to do in terms of repurposing is if you've got a big, shiny annual report, you can create a small version of it, maybe 8.5 by 14, and you can use that for lots of different things. You can put that out at an event. That's a lot. You don't want to spare your glossy ones, but you can put that out at your event. You can throw that in your new donor welcome package because those folks probably haven't gotten it yet. You can actually turn it into an appeal with a cover letter and a traditional appeal. So just really be creative, and this is also, it gives you another opportunity to maybe share expenses, because if you're all sharing collateral, you can all benefit from it.
If you have something to share, I mean, a lot of nonprofits go, oh my gosh, I have to do a blog now, and I have to come up with articles, or I have to think of things to say, and I don't have time to do this. Yes, it can be quite daunting, and I'm not saying create a blog and then put one post up there and leave it, because that's the worst thing that you could possibly do. But there's a lot of information on your website already that you probably haven't harnessed, and if you think that someone is going on your website and reading every article that you've posted and every press release, you're deluding yourself. It really is important to highlight, and I can speak clearly about Consumer Reports, for example. We have a magazine. What we do is we take some of the articles in the magazine and repurpose it. Online, we repurpose it in premium offers. Hey, get the special gift. It's repurposed information from the magazine that they're getting. It's highlighting specific topics that we find from click-throughs or whatever have you that people are interested in. They just haven't had time to read it. And it really is using photos. As you know, photos is very important via social media. It's not only important on Facebook, it's also important on Twitter, and it's even bigger on Instagram now. Of course, those photos have to be relevant to your organization. Don't post photos that make no relevancy to your organization. But it helps to re-promote your organization over again and reinforce the message. So telling your story isn't exactly writing a 5-page article. It could be 30 words in a paragraph and a link. It's just being constantly viral on Google, getting that ranking to keep increasing so your website is constantly being sourced as a resource. I hate to say this, but Livestrong, even though all the controversy that they have, is a perfect example of an organization that has done that to the point where if you look up a lot of different things, you're able to get back to them.
I have a question. When you talk about this, as a busy fundraiser, I think, oh, this is something I should be doing. One, I don't totally know how to do it, but two, how am I going to add this into my schedule? Like, where do I find the time for this? Any thoughts on how and once you start it, do you have to feel like, oh God, now I've got to put out 3 blog posts a week, or?
No, I mean, most blog posts vary depending on your organization, and I hate to say that but it really does vary. It's something that can be shared. It also is something that, I hate to say this, but volunteers are great, interns are great. At Consumer Reports, we use interns. When I was at Covenant House, we use interns. Ambassadors, people that are invested in social media, that speak on your behalf already. There are donors that are invested in committing time. When I was at Lighthouse, we had a lot of volunteers that were willing to do all types of things for us. And those are the people that can be given work to be done, and we can entrust to do that on your behalf. So as long as you have a committed person that can help, whether it's a volunteer, and it doesn't even have to be somebody physically in your office. There is virtualvolunteer.org where you can get virtual volunteers. There are people sitting there waiting, desperately wanting to do something, especially with the job market now. Even though it's on a rebound, a lot of people have a lot of free time to help out organizations. This is one great way to take advantage of it.
See, that's the one thing where you want to write it down, because I should just said it.
That's $75 right there. Virtualvolunteer.org.
Yeah.
Awesome, thank you.
Okay.
Okay, 11, Brian.
So, I hear often from organizations, I don't have any money for testing. I say, yes, you do. I hear it a lot, and I work with several organizations where, oh, you really didn't move the needle this year. Our results aren't up this year. What's wrong? And I said, because you didn't let us do some tests. You had no testing budget. So I'm just, since none of you are my clients, I'm kind of being mean. I say it much nicer if you're a client. But the bottom line is,
You don't know, this could be the guy with the camera.
and please don't ever direct any of my clients to this video. But the bottom line is, okay, get innovative. Testing does not have to be expensive. So you do need to test, sorry. You do need to think it maybe once a year, develop a budget for it, but understand it is the lifeblood of your future. We just talked about REs and BREs. That's a really important question to answer. It really is, and it has a lot of budgeting ramifications. So I say test different, cheap tests, I'll say test different gift arrays. They're huge gift array testing, and it doesn't cost you much to test a gift array, but they could really change your results. Test new copy treatments. I know people say, oh, that's subtle. It's not subtle if you have a new donor and you haven't said, hey, you're new for a couple of mailings in. I think new donors like to hear that several times, not just once. Remember, it's frequency. The game is frequency. Test teasers and no teasers. There is a cost to it, but teasers, like Bonnie's talked about REs and BREs, I am fascinated. For some clients, teasers work great. For other clients, I can't put anything on the envelope, and that works great. So, and that's not expensive. Take away an insert. See what happens. I know you're in love with your inserts, but guess what?
You can remove them.
I worked with one client. We had 10 things in it. Every year I'd take a thing away, and it kept doing better and better. So that's a really less
And
expensive.
that saves money so that you can test more the next year.
There you go. Test different postage treatments, meter versus indicia. Yes, there's an expense, but it's still a fun test, and it's not that expensive. Acquisition gift arrays, another gift array test. Test follow-up emails. Bonnie was talking about the power of just sending an email or repurposing something and sending an email communication. All right, well then send them a mailing and then test a follow-up mailing and a follow-up email. The email barely costs anything, and maybe you'll raise enough money that it just justified creating that email. So there are a lot of, we're testing pre-emails, post-emails, direct mail, email, direct mail, email, direct mail. We're testing all of those things. Why? Because email is so inexpensive. So you might as well check out what's happening to your file based on these type of tests. Sorry, I'm passionate about that one.
Yes.
Well, I think it's a case where you almost can't afford not to test. Bonnie and I were reminiscing earlier about the good old days in the early 90s when she and I first got into the industry. And, back then, we tested.
We were 5 years old.
But I feel like as an industry, I feel like we have raised the art of testing to an art form, where we are just testing everything, and you've got to. You really have no choice. And the other thing is, years ago, you could use the same package over and over and over, and now you better not. You better be on your toes and trying different things, because you just never know. Somebody gets in front of you in the mailbox and you're something.
I'm sorry I sounded like your grandmother saying,
Sorry.
It's all right.
I didn't mean to be.
Those are our donors. We gotta move?
Yes.
Oh, sorry. Email, Tricia.
Well, Brian covered a lot of it already.
Sorry.
Simplicity is sometimes the best way to communicate with donors via email. It depends on your organization, but sometimes the less flashy, the less flashy and more simple to the point email is the best way to communicate with your donors. And also remember, you have to make sure that it renders well on all platforms, whether it's an iPad, a smartphone, a laptop. So making the email more concise. And I'm not saying that you need to spend a lot of money on rendering different platforms. If you have a small budget, you can make it small enough so you can see it on different platforms quite easily.
Okay. Brian.
Sorry, it's me again. I'm back. So tip number 13, use homegrown prospect lists. I just want to make sure everyone who works at a nonprofit is really exploring how do people communicate with you, and have you captured at least an email or an offline address. I do find that a lot of folks, like there are organizations that send out pamphlets or send out e-communications, and then they don't even market or solicit or try to create a relationship with those people. So explore that. Are people calling into a 1-800 number? Are you capturing their name and address? What about people who sign up for an e-newsletter? What's your strategy for them? Or just signing up for emails in general, wanting to communicate to you. How do you convert them into a donor? So keep looking at all of those different ways of capturing names. Even people who have little local events. I have worked with organizations, they don't even have like a sign-up sheet, so they know who came to the event and how can I communicate back to them. So keep thinking that way, because in-house homegrown lists, they actually are your best donors, and they work better than prospect files.
I have to say, we kind of pride ourselves in AMPAR's philanthropy department as being the excellent example of being an unsiloed philanthropy department. We freely toss donors back and forth between major gifts and the direct mail program.
That's what you're supposed to do.
We have a real good, strong staff that isn't afraid of, oh, well, that's my money and that's your money. So one of the things that we like to do is when my major gift officer comes up with a big gift, she'll come to me and say, I just got this money, how can we use it in direct mail? Do we use it for a match? Do we use it for Facebook likes? What have you? But get creative in your thinking, and how can you almost like repurposing the money? How can you get more from it? We had one recently, we got a $25,000 match from someone from Goldman Sachs, and when we went back to her and said, we'd like to use this in the direct mail campaign, as a match program, and this woman is a partner at Goldman, so the math to her was like, oh my God, that's brilliant, and yes, please, and she even wrote back, she said, and what, for fun, I'll match anything you raise over that. Well, that's about the last thing you want to say. We just want dollar signs, But, there are things like that. So just, be thinking about how, and talk to the people in your department, because you just never know what's going to come up. They're great resources for brainstorming, and you can sort of pool your resources.
There's a lot of online charitable giving sites like justgive.org, Causes, Network for Good, and Razoo that are like third-party sites that allow people who are looking for ways to make a difference in their communities or give to a nonprofit organization to give to those third-party sites. And if you're not listed on them, they should be. The other trends that I'm seeing now is people are even going and soliciting for themselves. Anywhere from medical bills to there's individual sites that Kickstarter campaigns and stuff like that, where they harness themselves around a specific need and they're able to raise money from that. And there's ways, depending on what kind of organization you have. If you're a large organization, yes, third-party sites are great, Kickstarter campaign for specific actions and causes. But if you're a small organization that is community-based and entrenched in the community, this is perfect for you. And you need to mobilize your group of donors to become ambassadors of your org. And you're like, oh, I don't have time for that. Mobilize my donors? Come on. I mean, how many things do you want me to do in a day? It's true, but this is the future of your donor. Your donor, or your major donor, I'm sure Valerie and everybody else here will agree, they expect more from the organization. In the future, which is now, they're going to be expecting that you treat them like they have a portfolio, and you're treating them as an investor and as a shareholder. There's somebody that's expecting a lot more out of the organization than they ever did before. For example, we had a donor who upgraded from mid-level to major gifts, 5,000. Our major gift program's kind of different. The expectation he has on a quarterly basis from us is similar to an expectation of a grant. I mean, it's higher level. So this is where what Valerie's been talking about, that you really need to work as a team, needs to get into place. So
And there's a website, I think, is it the Giving Library? It's a video of the CEO or your program director, and they just do a lovely video for 3 or 4 minutes. And donors can go to that site, and I think it's free. I mean, they check you out a little, but you put your video on there, and you wouldn't believe how many people go to your website because they've peeked at that video. They're looking for knowledge, and it's all free. So just get a video out and see if you can apply it.
That's the Arnold Foundation that did that, and they did it for us, and they actually bring you to their studio, professionally record you with pre-prepared remarks, and put it up on this Giving Library. It was really great. I haven't really seen a lot of results from it yet, but I think it will.
It'll happen.
It'll happen.
Yeah.
I don't have any more tips.
You're
after
having
this.
fun.
I'm having fun. The answer could be black and white. Everyone's going to hate this idea, but I don't hate it. So you love photos, long copy. You love inserts. You love colors. You love graphics. But do you know what your donors love? I would say after 25 plus years of testing, I found that a lot of our older demographics, they love simple packages, no photos, lots of, short copy, no inserts, black and white, not lots of visuals.
Courier typeface.
Courier typeface, handwritten looking things, little Post-it notes that we barely ever use anymore. So once again, you have to understand your donors, and the only way you can understand it is by testing and checking it out and seeing what they like. And it's disappointing that the black and white package does twice as good as the colorful fun one with all the inserts, but it's a lesson that you have to learn. And like Bonnie said, those things cost less too. There's all these different things you can do, and it actually costs less. So I learned that, and you might want to think about that the next time you're slapping on a 4-color pamphlet into your package.
I think we need to rename this tip. Less is both less and more.
yes,
Yes.
less is less.
Less is less and more.
Right. I'd also add on the email side, not doing a full HTML, but doing actual text message. That works very well too.
Another question?
Yeah, because I know for a while there was a pretty compelling statistic about the fact that there's a significant portion of the population that doesn't even have high-speed internet, and they can't.
Still.
Yeah, it's still, so keep that in mind too. Not everybody's internet connection enables them to download your videos and your funky flash stuff.
Right.
Social media is the future.
That's gotta be Tricia.
Well,
gotta
it's
be
it's,
Tricia.
it's not. It's here. It's. I was just being sarcastic. It's already here. Facebook, you're already aware of. You know, you have to have a page on it, or or not. But it's important that you have visual presence on it. What has changed about Facebook now is EdgeRank is extremely important. It's not about how many EdgeRank.
And what's that?
It's the time, it's the affinity, and it's the weight, and it's the time decay. That's a formula that Facebook came out with a while ago. But I can.
What is it called again?
Tricia,
It's
is these cards up here?
No.
Anyone wants to contact
Edge
us
rate?
afterwards to explain all that?
It's an algorithm. It's a formula that Facebook uses to determine what exposure you get on someone's timeline. So even your own personal Facebook page, all those cute little photos you post, and all those little sayings and the quotes, which are going insane on Facebook now, not all your friends are going to see it. Not all 500 of your friends are going to see all your posts. And this was done supposedly to reduce spamming on your timeline and to really hone in on the people that really care about you. So the people that really click on all your photos, that say likes, that have comments, those are the ones that are seeing it. The people that are not as engaged don't see it. And what the algorithm does is weighs the value of your posts, and specifically with organizations that are trying to communicate with the donors. Buying those donors, or buying those people to like your page and not trying to grow it organically through the different channels that you have can be detrimental to you as well, because you may be buying also fake pages, which has propped up like crazy on Facebook now. There are a lot of people that are especially on Fiverr. Oh, I can build your Facebook profile, I can build your Facebook account, I can increase it from 1,000 to 5,000. Most of those pages aren't even real. They're fake pages on Facebook. So the trend now is to really take advantage of the donor, of the Facebook followers that you've already had, and engage them. Facebook should be used not only to raise donations, which Paul has been successful in doing, but to also engage with your donors from a customer relationship perspective. It is extremely important to respond to whatever they're posting, to recognize their efforts, to highlight those people on your Facebook, and to really connect and make sure that you understand the people that are liking your page may also be your donors. Find ways to track that. This is so important. And don't forget about Twitter. People are like, oh, it's 400 million people on Twitter now, and who's paying attention to my tweets? No one's curbing your tweets. Every tweet that you post is being seen by your followers. So that is extremely important. It's probably just as more important now than on Facebook. Facebook, you shouldn't be posting 3 or 4 times a day. Maybe it's 2 or 3 times a day, or even 2, depending on what you have to post. When you tweet, it could be up to 10. And with Instagram, it's still a brand that's growing. Photos are very popular on there. It's a social media platform that you should still use. But with Facebook, you really need to pay attention to that EdgeRank algorithm formula.
And that changes all the time, right?
Yes.
So, just to make it more interesting.
And you said Edge, EDGE, right?
Yes.
I just wanted to make sure.
EdgeRank.
Okay.
It's EdgeRank.
Oh, sorry.
Edge
No,
rank.
So what maybe works 6 months ago doesn't necessarily work today.
And they say, people have said that this is another way that Facebook is capitalizing on revenue, because now you can promote your posts as opposed to, it's placing ads. It's more opportunity for people to see your posts now. But I think if you stay true to your cause and your mission, the people that really care about you will viral you anyway.
Got it. So you just give me the 5-minute word.
5 minutes for 3 tips.
Okay.
Sorry,
No, that's awesome.
passionate about it.
All right. You have to tread, that's me, you have to tread really lightly here, because people, although they may give online more, the direct mail is still driving them, but there's a lot of things you can do to save some money. And I would start with informational mailings, not fundraising mailings. I mean, there might be people who will opt out of your print newsletter and you can send them an email version. But even in that case, I would send one touch of a print edition, again, just to give people another opportunity for you to get in front of your folks. But, and I think Bryan spoke to this earlier too, when he said test, email, direct mail, email, direct mail. There's a lot of ways to save money as well there, getting your donors online.
Webinar.
We've talked about this a bit.
Yeah, we have. We've covered webinars.
We've done a couple at AMFAR. We did one recently. Paul, you can check me on this. We had our CEO and our top scientists just have a conversation. We had a recent news breakthrough. And the way they did it was through YouTube, and yet donors went to our website to watch it.
Right.
And what was cool about it was that after the fact, well, one, we had no connectivity issues because I'm on YouTube, but YouTube was able to provide us with all kinds of statistics. And
Wow.
is there any cost involved? I don't think there's.
No, it's free.
So again, and it goes back to that cultivation. It's inviting them insider access, and you get so many points just for asking them to show a little more interest.
And that's something you probably repurpose too, right? Like put that video on your website.
That's on the
Potentially,
website.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yes.
Monthly
Monthly giving.
Monthly giving.
Yeah, this is a great way to save money because donors who give to you monthly their lifetime value is much higher than donors who give to you like just 1 time or 2 times throughout the year. And it costs less to steward them. So there's lots of ways to convert more of your donors to monthly giving. The main ways are through telemarketing conversion and through even online conversion potentially. But if you want to do, there's some quick and dirty ways you can do it is to maybe test a monthly giving option on your reply slips because that'll kind of you'll get the cream of the crop right there without spending too much money. And on your e-newsletter, just use the sidebar promoting monthly giving. So, and I think more and more organizations are moving toward this kind of giving for donors because it's just so efficient for so many ways. And then the one thing that you should promote to your donors when you're trying to get them to convert, studies have shown that one of the main reason that people do sign up for monthly giving is because it's convenient for them. So you still want to talk about how it provides a steady, reliable source of income. You still want to talk about how it's environmentally sound, but the number one reason is it's easy for you, it's good for your budget, and you're helping us too.
And you really should have a dedicated landing page for your monthly giving club, or even if it's not a club, because people online, they like to sign up for stuff, they like to use charge cards. So there's this affinity there with becoming a monthly
Yeah.
donor because they like to use their charge cards. But if you have just a little check off in your single gift, general gift form, that doesn't really work. You really want its own page. You want to explain it and you want them to know they're signing up for it. So think it through. We also do little space ads in the traditional newsletter where we talk
Right.
about the club.
That's a good idea. And you should name your club because that's the other thing. People want to join it. And there's great ways to name it. At Amnesty, it's Partners of Conscience, which is a riff on Prisoners of Conscience. It's Rescue Partners at the International Rescue Committee. It's the Reformers Club at Drug Policy Alliance. So that just makes people feel that they're belonging to community, which is also important.
And if you're small, if you only have a couple of hundred, but think how important they are. And I've worked with organizations, I only have a couple of hundred, but every year it grows a little bit
Yeah.
more. And then suddenly they're worth, 10% of the revenue for the year.
Right. That's a lot of money that you're depositing in the bank every month. Oh, but still, ever the direct marketer, you should mail them at least twice a year for another gift, like
Yes.
a year-end appeal,
Matching.
and maybe at some other time, or a match. There's a lot of definite ways to still get that 13th gift out of them, if you will.
And to plug the DMFA, if you are a DMFA member, we have a wonderful session that we did last month with everything about monthly giving, and it got great reviews. So you can go see that video on our website.
For free.
For free.
For free.
Only members though.
Only
Right.
members.
We're at 20, right, $105 early bird.
You mean it, yeah.
Does anyone have any other questions?
Or tips?
I have an
Ideas?
awesome tip. Can I give it to you really quickly?
21.
I didn't even know we were doing this. My brilliant direct mail consultant, he left the room because he's so busy. What we do on certain mailings is on the reply form, we obviously would print the address block, but we also print for donors that we have email addresses for, we say, this is what we have for your email address, make any corrections. And donors actually do it. So we're keeping our file clean and we're getting them to send us something back and interact a little bit. And that's such a simple thing, costs you nothing, and yet it serves a lot of other purposes. So that was my brilliant tip of the
Number
week.
21.
21,
Anyway,
bonus tip.
So I just want to thank our very fine panelists and thank you all for coming.